Please stand for a moment of silence in the pledge. Being the week of September 11th and the night being the Remembrance in the Park, please keep all of our emergency responders in your thoughts. And now the pledge. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Good morning. I'd like to call a meeting to order. Approval of two sets of minutes, August 30th, September 1st. Is everybody here? Krista, for
August
all
30th,
but
yes.
September 1st, I think we had
September
Wayne,
1st, correct, he was out.
Commissioner Kiefer. Okay. Anybody approve the minutes for August 30th?
Motion to approve.
Second. First and second, all in favor say aye.
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 Okay, for the special meeting, September 1st, motion to approve.
Motion to approve.
Second.
Yeah, first and second, all in favor say aye.
Aye.
Aye, 4-0. Next, Commissioner reports and comments. Commissioner Baker.
Just good morning to everyone. Have a nice crowd here this morning, and hopefully we'll have a great meeting. And everyone have a great day. Thank you.
Thank you. Commissioner Kiefer.
Welcome, everyone. You know, we have a lot of people I think want to speak, so I think I'll limit my commissioner comment time so we have more time for the audience.
Thank you. Commissioner Burkett.
Good morning, everyone. Hope everyone had a great Labor Day weekend. Last Friday, I attended what I think was one of the most exciting, well-attended ribbon cuttings that I've been to during my time on the board. I, along with Commissioner Klein and Commissioner Wagner, presented the skate park committee with a proclamation celebrating the new skate park. And I may not be a skateboarder or a BMXer or other wheel device rider, but was excited to see this project get off the ground and then celebrate the opening event. Projects like that are important to all of Washington County and provides avenues of recreation that I believe are a good use of tax dollars. Just a quick mention, I didn't see on our agenda a spot to discuss the $3 million we have set aside for profits. As someone that's coming out of private business, the private business world, into government, I recognize that government can move a little slower at a slower pace, but I hope we can knock a couple of these requests off our list, especially the need for Meals on Wheels that has roughly 90 hourly waiting to receive a meal on a daily basis. Along with that, I'm sure the other commissioners, as I have received requests, some of those from Ritchie Museum, Ringgold, Rorigan, Smithburg Fire Company, Boys and Girls Club, and with the Meals on Wheels request, they total about $623,000, not even 30% of the total that we set aside. And so hopefully maybe we can make some decisions on these projects quickly. And then just another quick mention, this Thursday is the Day of Caring event. Many Washington County employees will be out and about giving of their time and talents with nonprofits. Thank you to each of you who were able to step up and help with these projects. That's all for me today.
Commissioner Wagner.
Good morning. I just want to acknowledge something I feel is real important is in the last couple weeks we've attended Eagle Scout ceremonies. I mean, we've been to quite a few. Jeff's probably been a whole lot more than I have, but that's really is one of my favorite events when these young guys become Eagle Scouts. That's all. It was Jesse Miller, Troop 14, and Scott Crawford, 23, correct? Troop 23. So I wanted to call them out for such an achievement. I mean, that's a hard path to take, and we have one of those every couple weeks. So I wanted to acknowledge their success and achievements to get there. That's all I have.
Yeah, thank you. Jesse Miller, always, when you think the world's awful, you open up the newspaper, you turn on the TV or social media, and you think the world is awful, go to an Eagle Scout ceremony and see the leadership, God and country and family there amongst you in that room. So we're okay in America. We have leaders coming up. Jesse Miller was a special ceremony, and Scott Crawford was adopted by American parents from Guatemala. And what set him out a little bit different was he raised enough funds for over 100 backpacks to send back to his village in Guatemala for things that we take for granted, toothpaste, shampoo, and other types of products on a daily basis. And he's also been down there for mission trips. So each one of these scouts, these Eagle Scouts, have a special story in how they're going to be tomorrow's leaders. I also attended the 9/11 Boonsboro Annual Remembrance Parade. I think they're in their 21st year. Again, it was special to see that the faces of our responders who run into a building, run into a scene of disaster to protect our lives and our property. And a little plug tonight for our Remembrance in the Park. I believe it starts at 6:30. So we'd like for all of you to be in attendance for that. That concludes my report. We'll now go to staff comments. Susan Buchanan, would you like to go first?
Good morning. Susan Buchanan, Director, Office of Grant Management. I'm here this morning to announce a new grant opportunity that will be offered through the Office of Grant Management. This grant is entitled the Community Recovery Nonprofit Grant and has been created to assist local nonprofits impacted by the COVID-19 public health pandemic and the negative economic impacts that it caused. This grant is funded by a portion of the county's American Recovery Act funding, ARPA funding, and provides $1.5 million for eligible organizations. Individual awards up to $40,000 will be considered for organizations that can demonstrate impact from the COVID-19 pandemic, including decreased revenue, financial insecurity, increased costs and the need for service, capacity to weather financial hardships, challenges covering operating costs, and downsizing of staff or services. These applications will be available on September 21st, 2022, and will be accepted through 3 p.m. on October 19th, 2022. The materials will be posted on the Grant Management website, and questions can be directed to communityrecovery@washcomaryland.net or to call the Grant Management office line 240-313-2040. Just wanted to make sure you all were available, or not available, were aware of this, because I know you're out in the community a lot and that you can spread it.
Give me the two figures again. You said one was the amount, total amount?
The total amount available is $1.5 million. That
And
was
40,000 was
40,000 is the cap for individual requests.
cap for individuals? And what's the process? It's going to come in through application, then what happens?
It'll come in through applications. It will be reviewed by Grant Management staff and up through my approval and the interim CFO approval for eligibility.
Okay, thank you.
So what I'm hearing, some of these groups that know about our willingness to put $3 million in from our surplus into nonprofits, this is another avenue
Yes.
which they could apply almost immediately because the
Yes.
process is in
Yes.
place.
This is an alternative source of funds that could be.
One of the things I've learned through Appalachian Regional Council, Tri-County Council, and the George Edwards $50 million fund, we're trying to direct people to use, if there's available fundings from other organizations, use those first and not set themselves. So for those who are listening, the audience, here may be another avenue for maybe a more immediate, faster response with the process in place. Would that be
That's some
accurate?
appropriate timing for
Yeah,
the announcement
very good.
today.
Thank you.
Then just to repeat, September 21st is the
Yes,
opening.
September 21st, all the information will be posted on the website. Have the
Can you
rules, the
repeat the
application.
website, please, again, slow?
This is, I don't have the website address yet, but it will be
Okay.
on the Grant Management. If you go to the Grant Management homepage, there'll be a
And
button to
we'll
hit.
share it on our
Yes.
social media,
But-
correct? Now, press release, is that
Yeah,
correct?
that press release is scheduled to go out tomorrow.
Right.
Regarding this, and we will also be sending out a direct notice. We have a very extensive mailing list of organizations, nonprofit organizations.
But we have
We'll
that
send
money ready
out.
to roll.
And we have, the money's there, ready to roll, it just will be going through the process to do so. And the email address, I think you had asked for an email address, it's communityrecovery@washcomaryland.net.
Okay, but
That would be for
there'll be a
questions.
press release
Yes,
tomorrow on it.
all this will be,
Very good information.
Yeah, and just to follow up, I also want to thank Susan and her team for putting this program together, but this stems from this board's approval
Yes.
of the ARPA, using the ARPA funds, and this is one of the programs that this board approved and Susan and her team have put this together, and it's ready to roll out, so.
Yes, we spent a lot of time making sure this met all the very rigorous rules and for spending these funds, which have changed over the past several months. So we put a lot of effort into trying to come up with something that we think will work well for the community and ensure that we spend the money in the way that it's intended to be spent.
Susan, do you know offhand, or maybe you or another staff member could get for us, how much of the ARPA funding remains that Washington County can distribute? I know some of us, this came as a little bit of a surprise that there was still some funding remaining, and
So are you looking for funds that have not been encumbered for a particular reason, or funds that just haven't been spent? I know that.
Both.
Both?
Yeah.
I'm sure that we can work with Budget and Finance and get that information.
Yeah, we can find out that information, but I'm not sure and when you talk about encumbered, so this board had approved a number of different programs and the use of those funds, and this was part of it. So,
Right.
So this program that she's bringing forward today was already part of what this board approved. So I don't know if there's any extra money
And you were
left
just
there
able
that hasn't already been
recently to
distributed.
establish the rules and the guidelines from our.
Right,
Correct.
because they had to develop the program from scratch.
Right, we
so
had to
that's
draw
what
up
they
the
did.
program that changed several times because changes in rules and reporting, so we're trying to get it out.
but if you could give us a figure as to how much
Sure.
money will continue to go into our community, that would be nice to know.
Okay, I can do that.
Okay, thank you very much. Continuing with
Susan,
staff
can you stick around?
comments.
Sure.
No, can you stay around during the citizens' participation? Just so you can hear. Thank you.
Okay. Krista?
The Adult Public Guardianship Review Board requesting that you accept the recommendation to reappoint Deborah Phillips to serve a second three-year term as the local nonprofit representative from September 1, 2022 through August 31st, 2025. And this is not a paid board.
Motion to approve.
Second.
First and second. Any other questions? If not, all in favor say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Thank you.
Thank you.
Any other staff in the audience? Mr. Downey?
Nothing this morning. Thank you.
Mr. County Administrator?
Just a few things. Good morning. Thank you, President Klein. Good morning, Commissioners. Good morning, everyone. Just two things, and they've already been touched on this morning, but just to follow up on Commissioner Burgett's comment about the United Way Day of Caring. It is, as he said, it is Thursday. The county has 34 volunteers working at 6 different nonprofit sites. Commissioners, I'll provide those sites to you, so if you happen to be in the area and want to stop by, I can provide those information to you. And President Klein also mentioned the Remembrance in the Park ceremony this evening, tribute to our fallen heroes. It starts at 6 p.m. and it's at Hagerstown City Park, the Emergency Services Tribute Guard. So hope everyone can come out if you can.
Okay. Any other staff for comments? Hearing none. Next up is citizens' participation, issues of county practices and interests. This is not an interactive dialogue or a question and answer session. It is solely time to hear citizen comments. Please limit your remarks to as close as 3 minutes or under as possible. We'll begin with the front row. Please come forward, introduce yourselves in the matter. Good morning, everyone.
Morning.
Good morning, gentlemen. My name is Linda Irvin Craig, 17813 Alpine Drive, Morgansville. I'm appearing this morning on behalf of Holly Place, an organization on whose board I have served for a number of years. I believe most of you, if not all of you, have been to visit and are very familiar with our mission. With me is our board president, Doug Wright, who has given even more years than I have to support this very small but vital nonprofit organization, which serves seniors in need of assisted living and are unable to afford the cost of commercial residency. I would like Doug to introduce himself and talk briefly about our services and the need for them that has us looking hard as to how to go forward with the work and waiting list.
Good morning. My name is Doug Wright. I live at 911 Potomac Avenue in Hagerstown. We come today, before I do that, I'd also like to recognize another board member, Howard Long, who I know you all know from many other interactions. But we come with a request for supplemental financial assistance in the amount of $50,000 to help cover the cost of some annual fundraisers that were lost due to COVID, the increase in minimum wages, which we're straining under, and virtually in the inventory, inflationary increases and pressures we're under from almost everything we buy. Our clients' residents remain the same folks who need assisted living who cannot afford it. We also were fortunate enough to receive this money. We hope to begin a development office operation, which will allow us to expand more in meeting the needs of Holly Place. I want to quote with just something I saw recently on our website where people write to us and says, "My father is being released from the hospital tomorrow and told us to look into assisted living places. I was wondering if you have the availability and what your prices are. We cannot afford the $3,000 most places are asking for." This is our niche, taking care of folks who can't afford it. Thank you very much.
And I'm Howard Long. I live at 14 Delaware Lane in Boonsboro, Maryland. I'm just here for support. I'm a member of the Board of Directors. Thank you.
Folks, what I heard from Susan Buchanan might be something for you to consider right away as well.
Oh, yeah.
Okay, thank you very much.
Thank you.
Continuing with citizens' participation, anyone else on the front row? Introduce yourself in the matter.
Good morning. My name is Russ Hodge. I'm the president of Three Roads Communications in Frederick. We're the company that is producing the public television documentary about the Jonathan Street cabin called The House on Jonathan Street. I'm reaching out to respectfully request that the Washington County government again place the underwriting of the documentary, The House on Jonathan Street, on its agenda. You may recall that the request from CVB was on your agenda in early May and then was pulled right before consideration. CVB has committed $50,000 in underwriting for the documentary, which is contingent upon the county matching that grant. We've conducted 36 interviews for the documentary so far, including federal, state, county, and city political leaders and government officials, economists, historians, journalists, and most importantly, about a dozen Jonathan Street residents, both past and present. We've shot footage at numerous locales within the county, including Fort Ritchie, the John Brown Kennedy Farm, the Aviation Museum, the Fine Arts Museum, and Hager House, as well as extensively at the cabin at 417 Jonathan Street. We've begun editing the footage in hopes that the project will be able to be distributed nationally to public television stations across America during the first half of 2023. We've been working on the documentary for more than 2 years now and have received a distribution letter from our public TV distributor expressing their belief in the viability and interest on the part of public TV in this project. We have already received a production tax credit from the state for this project, as well as some underwriting through Washington County Community Foundation. It's my understanding that your former colleague, Tom Reifert, has also written a letter in support of the funding and has expressed those sentiments to me privately as well. It's my hope the underwriting proposal will be put back on the Commissioner's agenda in the very near future as we continue moving forward expeditiously with the project. We would be happy to answer any questions that you have or come back for a formal presentation. Thank you in advance.
Thank you, Mr. Hodge.
Were you given a reason why it was pulled?
No.
Okay.
All right, continuing with citizens' participation, please come forward, introduce yourself in the matter.
Hi, my name is Colin Berry. I'm Executive Director at the Humane Society of Washington County.
I'm Crystal Mallory, Field Service Director for the Humane Society of Washington County.
And we're here today in response to Herald Mail's article mentioning the budget surplus of $3 million that would be set aside for local nonprofits. I know there are a lot of needs throughout our community, but on behalf of the shelter, we would just like the opportunity to present a formal request prior to the allocation of those funds. Once you decide how that process will work, we will be requesting $250,000. And I just want to highlight a few reasons why. currently, we're at a really critical juncture for our facility, and that's just to maintain the current work, program, services we're doing. A few of the examples are surgical lights for our Humane Society's Vet Center. They'll cost $30,000. Our original surgical lights have failed, and repairing them is not fiscally responsible at this time. Our veterinarians use these lights to perform more than 3,000 surgical procedures a year, and that includes spaying and neutering all shelter animals, feral cats, and publicly owned animals. These are procedures that are 100% critical to keeping overpopulation down, animals off the street, and to continue down the path, we've already come so far on. We can't continue this level of work without properly functioning equipment. It'll better serve us today, it'll better serve us tomorrow, both for shelter animals and for the community. Also, we have our HVAC system in the shelter and admin side of the facility. They are long overdue for replacement. And I tell you this because over the past 5 years, we've spent more than $55,000 making repairs, basically putting Band-Aids on these units. And with all of these broken units, we have right now about $30,000 pending in what we need to be doing immediately, as in the next few months, in order to continue having these systems function. So, we have a risk of AC failure in the summer, which has happened, and it's an emergency situation, heat in the winter, and we're housing more than 4,000 animals a year. So this is something we do have to get ahead of. We're securing bids, but right now we are looking at a minimum of $210,000 to replace the 8 units that are inside, and the 6 units that are inside. Finally, we have another issue which, it doesn't sound as exciting as some of our other issues, but it's critical. We have a new need for a secure climate-controlled structure that will enable us to safely store animal food. Between the food that we have on site for the 4,000 animals in our care and all of the food that we provide for our pet food bank, which is about 35,000 pounds a year, we do the best we can, and in our current facility, we do have moisture problems and we do have rodent issues, and we have to literally throw that food away. We are unable to help people because we are putting it in the dumpster because it is not safe to distribute. It's estimated the building that is actually temperature, climate controlled. It is secure, it's on a foundation. It's not something we're just piecing together. Given the area where it has to be put and all of the different components of it to keep food safe, we are looking around $250,000 for this. I think.
Yeah.
Hey, just a reminder, sum up, you're hitting over close to 3.
Got it.
Okay.
Yep. So the food, in addition, we have just recently been granted a tremendous opportunity, partnership through Chewy, to receive basically tractor trailer loads of food for us to give away to the public. And we are partnering with another organization to significantly expand our senior and disabled outreach with that food at no additional cost to us. They're going to provide transportation to senior and disabled citizens all throughout the county to transport this tractor trailer loads of food to them, to their pets. Unfortunately, we can't do that until we have the new building.
So again, this is 500,000 plus in needs, but we would like to formally request 250,000 when the opportunity presents itself.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Continuing with citizens' participation. Anybody else in that same row? If not, we'll go to the second row. Please come forward. Second, third row, whatever, how many. Please introduce yourselves and your guests and
Hello,
subject.
I'm Nicole Hauser. I am Executive Director of the Community Free Clinic. This is my Board President, Mike Barnes, and Board Vice President, David Taylor. We had submitted back in the end of April a letter requesting some funding of $350,000. I brought extra copies if anybody needs them. The Community Free Clinic has been around for 32 years, and we see the uninsured population of Washington County, which, according to the 2020 census, is still roughly 6.7%, so we're still over 10,000 Washington County residents who have no health insurance. Now, that could be for reasons of they work full-time jobs, but they can't afford the health insurance, or they're working 2 and 3 part-time jobs, and they aren't offered the benefit of health insurance. Some of them are just in that 90-day COBRA period between jobs, and they come to us for their care during that. We see them free of charge completely. That includes their primary care, their medications, any lab testing or other testings they may need. And again, that is, they pay nothing. We do 75% of our funds come from grants. The other 25% comes from fundraisers. We, over the past 2.5 years, because of COVID, have not had to, just like every other nonprofit, have not had the luxury of doing fundraisers as we used to. So we have started this fiscal year in a deficit, and that was part of the reason why the letter last year, we ended up having to take a loan out to get us through last year. A lot of the grants that we write are for programs, but in our sense, the program would not happen without our employees, because we have a full-time nurse practitioner that sees our patients. We have nursing staff, we have medical assistants. Without them, there's no program for diabetics, there's no program for hypertension. The grants will allow us to write a small percentage in for that, but the biggest piece of that is considered our operating funds, and that is the most difficult to find when it comes to grant funding. So that's where a lot of ours goes to.
Closing in on 3. Is there any other comments?
We've had to borrow $237,000 to continue our operations, and it's critical that we get funding so we can continue that. Otherwise, we're going to have to cut services to our patients and/or new patients. It's important to understand that we do also mental health care free, and that is increasing enormously.
I could tell you just real quick the numbers just over the past 2 years. In our fiscal year 2021, our patient visits were over 4,200. 1,000 of those were mental health visits. This past fiscal year, 21-22, our visits were just a little under 4,200, and our mental health visits were around 1,530. So our mental health is increasing.
And we also treat at Brooks House, which everybody's familiar with. We've taken that over.
We go there twice a week, and we see individual and group for.
Not to interrupt, but with
Time's
so
up.
many people speaking,
Yes.
I'm trying to get everybody.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you all very
Thank
much.
you.
Oh, and also somebody mentioned United Way.
Go ahead.
We have one of the county's groups coming, and I appreciate it very much, because without them coming to do that, we wouldn't be able to get those projects.
Okay, thank you. Continuing with citizens' participation. Anybody else in the next row? Please come forward, introduce yourselves. Thank you very much.
Good morning, everybody. My name is Linda Ebersole, and I live in southern Washington County in a Knoxville mailing address. I have Scott Larzalier here with me this morning from the Maryland Department of Agriculture. He is in charge of the program that has taken care of our black fly treatment program on the Potomac River. I come before you because of the inconsistency in which we've had to handle the program throughout COVID. The black flies seem to have increased in the area, and it's literally miserable to be outside in southern Washington County. I'm hoping that you can possibly increase the funding on the program. In the past, I had come before you for $37,500, and that had been approved, and as far as I know, it was put in the budget for a long-term, it's there permanently, basically. What I'm hoping to do, and with Scott's help, he may want to say a few words, we're hoping to get back to where we're actually getting once-a-month treatments, not from early spring, probably April, when we first start seeing the black flies appear, through frost, because unfortunately, they are there nonstop. I could show you some of the war wounds on my arms, but we don't want to go there today. It's horrible to be out in the yard just doing garden work. But bottom line is I'm looking for the maximum, in addition to the $37,500, $52,500. That would get us the highest amount of funding, which is our 50% portion. State of Maryland picks up the balance of the program. And that would hopefully get us into once-a-month springs again for the remainder of FY '23. I don't know that there's anything else I'd want to really say myself, other than to say that, you know, it would greatly benefit the citizens of Southern Washington County. It obviously affects businesses and recreational activities as well as tourism in that area as well. Scott, would you like to say?
Yeah, as the monies that are being set aside now are giving us just enough to make a Band-Aid. It's having a marginal effect, if any. So increasing the budget will get me to an area where I can actually affect the population and help the citizens. But as it stands now, I'm fighting even to figure out when to treat to help these people because I'm so limited. I have basically one spray for the rest of the year until springtime, and I may not even do that because I may have to move that to the spring. So I can help them. So they'll be, I haven't touched the river with the pesticide since July 4th. So these people have been in basic hell all summer, and I can get the job done with enough monies.
So just one more comment. I know we have, the helicopter treats the river, and they did not increase costs as far as fuel, and that's something that could have happened, but it didn't. So I think it's important to point out that at least they've held back a little bit. They have a huge program in Pennsylvania, and Pennsylvania does it bi-weekly, and we're just looking for monthly. When that was done more consistently, it really helped. So I thank you all for your time.
Thank you. Sir, could we have the spelling of your last name for the record here?
LARZELERE.
Thank you very much.
Ms. Eversole, were you talking about, you're right, 37.5, that's the amount that's in the current year budget. So the 52.5, that's in addition to the 37, right?
Yes, sir.
And actually, at one point, it had been 70.
Okay.
Well,
that's
I don't know when that was. That was many years ago, right?
3 years ago.
How many?
3 years ago.
Okay. Thank you very much.
I think it was a 37.5 for a number of years.
All right. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Moving on with citizens' participation. Next up, Mr. Williams, please introduce yourself in the matter.
Morning, Commissioners. Dave Williams, 11 West Water Street in Smithsburg. For transparency, I'm a candidate for commissioner. My wife's on the school board. Now, as you are all aware, people across the county are concerned about the warehouses and are asking lots of questions. I urge you to conduct what I'll call a warehouse audit and put together a comprehensive report to provide an overview of Washington County's current and future warehouse picture and to provide answers to the questions being asked by citizens. Now, here are just some of the questions that I've compiled. How much land is left in the county with zoning that allows for more warehouses? Are more coming? How many warehouses do we have now? How many of those are currently empty? What has been the county role in bringing all these warehouses here? How is the planning and zoning process involved? What are the pros and cons? Is it possible to require solar panels on rooftops? Are there contingency plans for alternate uses? How many jobs are being created and at what pay level? Does blasting during construction impact nearby wells? Are the warehouses compounding the problems with I-81 and I-70? What about the wear and tear on county roads? As warehouses replace farmland, can the county be more aggressive in its agricultural land preservation efforts by allocating more funds for permanent easements? As warehouses replace other previously green spaces, are there tree replacement requirements? When do we have enough warehouses, and is it time for a moratorium? If we can get accurate information out there so we all have a better picture of where we stand, where we may be going, and whether or not we want to be going there. And if not, how do we change course?
Thank you. Continuing with citizens' participation. Anybody in the next row? Next row, please come forward and introduce yourselves. Good morning, everybody.
Good morning. I'm Amy Olak, the CEO of the Washington County Commission on Aging, located at 535 East Franklin Street, Hagerstown, Maryland.
I'm Ed Lowe. I'm the Board President of the Washington County Commission on Aging, live at 10728 Connor Drive in Williamsport, Maryland. We have a 59-second video presentation that I believe is ready to be shown this morning.
The Maryland Access Point Program, also known as MAP, is the doorway to all social services offered at the Washington County Commission on Aging. Currently, we have 266 new seniors and those with disabilities waiting up to 6 months for an appointment. This wait list is due to overwhelming demand, rapidly expanding senior populations, and underserving funding. Once you've waited, received your appointment, and have been approved for services, like Meals on Wheels, you are ready to wait again. After waiting up to 6 months to get an initial benefits appointment through MAP, those needing Meals on Wheels are currently placed on another wait list with 80 other people at the making of the video. Currently, we have no funding to serve any of the 80 medically homebound residents waiting for meals. We need your help.
So I would just like to add to that today, September the 13th, we now have 92 people waiting for Meals on Wheels since the making of the video.
These are all homebound seniors. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Appreciate it. Video was very nice.
What was that amount of request?
It's $518,553.
Okay, thank you
That
very
will
much.
take care of the 80 folks that are 80 seniors, homebound seniors currently on the waiting list.
Thank you.
Thank you. Continuing with citizens' participation, is there anyone else? Going once, as Commissioner Baker used to say, going twice. Okay, that'll conclude citizens' participation. Next, we want to wake Honorable Judge Wilkinson to the...
Before we start that, I know 2 weeks ago, it was important to me to be able to support the 2 requests that we had up at that point in time, and I think I made the comment that I'd like to make a decision on the Meals on Wheels and the free clinic this week. And as Charlie mentioned in his commissioner comments, we don't have any time in the agenda for any of the discussions of those. Will we be able to discuss those at some point in time today?
I mean, it wasn't, we talked about, you put $3 million aside. We've gotten a lot of requests, and some were this morning. There's no process or criteria that's been established as of yet. So there was nothing put on the agenda. Obviously, you can discuss it
Yeah, I just
at
know
any
it's
time if you
important
want to
to me that
discuss
we
it.
made a decision on, 2 weeks ago, I'd made the comment, make a decision on Meals on Wheels and free clinic today. That was.
Well, I'd want to
Yeah,
include
so-
then
so-
Humane Society then too, because that's, so there's 3 in there. And then I also want to include Holly House, Holly
okay with
Place.
that. I agree
I
with
mean, and then, I mean,
Right now, you have 1.271 million that's been requested today. And we had a lot of folks already leave that requested. I'm not saying I'm against any of it. I'm just saying is how fair is it? We don't really, what happens to how many nonprofits do we have?
yeah, we have Smithsburg wanting money, the fire company and the.
I'm just worried about how fair the process, we don't have a process, we don't have a policy on how we're doing it, we don't have an application, we don't have a need. We have a big need, but we don't have, what I'm trying to say is we don't know exactly, just because you asked for 300,000, do we give you 300,000? You know, we haven't had any kind of application, like I don't know what it costs, what everybody's requesting. That's just me. Now, if you guys want to vote, that's y'all's prerogative for sure, but I'm worried about all those nonprofits now, that we're at almost 1.3 million just today. What happens when all the other township municipalities and nonprofits come in, and next thing you know, we're at 8 million? That bothers me, so
I think one of the criteria would be that it's people first, and not to slight the Humane Society, they left, but
They're still there. Hey, Colin.
we are,
Colin
I
Story.
do agree with all those that may request today, but a question I had for Commission on Aging. as a part of the numbers you presented.
This is not a question and
Okay,
answer
well,
period. I made
we were discussing, I thought, the amount.
a question with the audience.
So if
and the
they were
gallery.
willing, okay, but if they were.
Reasons why we asked
I'm not
them here.
asking them now. I'm
Explain something. One reason we wanted them here, so they can come back and give a full, in-depth presentation, so we can have the discussion we're having there. Commissioner Wagner is right. A lot of people didn't get a chance to come in today to have the same opportunity. So I'd like to see a process in place. Commission on Aging, Community Free Clinic, all these other groups that Krista just showed me that aren't here today, the opportunity to do a full presentation where we could have this exchange like you're suggesting right now.
If Commissioner Baker is wanting to move forward with the two organizations that he mentioned, I would be in favor of that too. For the reason that these are not new requests, these are things that we hear about and have been brought to our attention for the last couple of months now. In terms of Meals on Wheels, for as long as I've been a commissioner, that shortage and that gap is something that's been discussed. So I would be in favor of moving forward. Those requests actually came to us before we opened up the idea of putting some of the tax surplus towards.
I still say it's not fair without a process.
Can I finish what I was saying?
I'll make that a motion.
You got a motion on the floor. Is there a second?
That's Meals on Wheels and the free clinic.
Second.
I'd like to add Humane Society on it too. They're just as important to our community. If we don't have them and animal ordinances and things they're saying, that's, we have a disaster.
The only thing I would say, that is a new request. These two requests are
No, it's
existing
not a new
requests.
request. I've been talking to them for weeks about this. This is not new. And the Smithsburg Athletic Booster's not new. The Smithsburg Fire, the company's not new. There's a lot of them. This process isn't being fair right now. You're showing favoritism.
Excuse me, President, you wouldn't let me finish a second
Yeah,
ago.
have a motion
And now
on the floor.
you've jumped, I know, but as a part of that motion,
accommodate you
you
during
wouldn't
this
let me
discussion.
finish, but then you jump in.
Well, go ahead. You have the floor.
What I was going to suggest was that as a part of the numbers that were given to us, they were also increasing staffing. And so maybe if they'd be willing to only increase one staff, it would reduce their request to about 300,000. I don't have a problem, or wait a minute, what was the total?
517.
518. It would reduce it to by about $50,000. So, you know, anyway, there are two people that would like to move forward on these two, and as a part of that motion, it was involving the Commission on Aging. I'm willing to move forward on that.
I'd like to add the Humane Society on since they submitted in August 17th for their request.
So how do we do that? How do we add the?
We can just add an amendment.
Well, I've heard about Holly Place for months.
I mean, there's seniors right there that may be displaced.
And they're helping seniors, correct. So I'm okay with Meals on Wheels, the free clinic, Holly Place.
And let's take care of South County, because I've been down there when them black gnats attack.
And
It's
I
awful.
admire everybody that came and presented today. I think that's important to me.
I'd go along with that, because they're all valuable.
So it would be a total.
Allow me to pull my motion if I can, if that's the right procedure, and Commissioner Baker, you
Or
make the motion.
I'll make the motion
okay, that's
to
good.
support Meals on Wheels, free clinic, Holly Place, Humane Society.
And Russ Hodge with the museum.
Well, that comes out of motel hotel
Okay.
tax.
Well, we can still
Black
approve
Fly.
that. We
Black
can
Fly.
still approve that today,
So those
correct?
5,
Did you add Black Fly?
yes. The 5 presenters today for.
Let me
Did
go
that
down
include
there.
did that include the Jonathan Street documentary?
No, that's a separate issue.
Separate issue.
That's out different.
So,
That was
we
a
have
hotel
motion
rental.
Yeah,
on the
that's correct.
floor
That
for
wasn't a
the
hotel
five
rental. Was that an
requests.
application from CB?
All right, we have a motion on the floor to approve the ones that were coming out of the nonprofit surplus,
Specific amounts for each one of those, because we never really.
as per requested. 50,000 Holly Place.
Second.
250 for Humane Society, 350 for Community Clinic, 52,500 was for the Black Flag, and then we had $518,000.50. Is that right? 50 cents? $553 for that. So we have a new motion on the floor. Was there a second for that?
Second.
All in favor, say aye.
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 Hey, it worked
And I think-
out.
And maybe not for today, but I mean, we do have to have a discussion about the remaining funds and how we want to do that. I will just tell you that if we create a whole new program with new applications and and it handled by county staff, I mean, that's going to be difficult to do because county staff is already working on a number of other projects. So it would be my recommendation to at least look at maybe some existing programs that we have that we could add additional monies to. That we already
How about
have
COF? Can we funnel some money to COF to make the decisions?
I think that's really all I wanted Susan to stick around. Can Susan speak to that for a minute?
I thought
Or
we
do you
had
want to do
3
it?
million set aside,
We do.
and then we can
But there'll be
decide the
remaining funds
request
now.
as they are
But
provided.
through COF, there's a mechanism for application and reviews, correct?
Yeah, I'm just trying to figure out a way to handle
Yeah.
the rest of the requests, but.
For the COF, this year we actually did increase it from 774 to 1 million even, so it went up a little bit. You could add additional money, for everyone's understanding, even though the applications go out for that in November, because it's part of our budget, it will be FY '24, they won't receive their funding until next July,
Okay.
just for timing.
Something we can talk about.
But it would be for the next
All right,
year's
well,
operating.
We have the judge waiting, so I'd like to move forward.
Thank you, guys.
Thank you, everyone.
Thank you. I just wanted the board to be aware that we need to decide what we're going to do, how we're going to hand out the rest of it.
Next up, change of job title, reclassification, circuit court.
Now, we got-
Welcome. Please forgive the delay. Please introduce yourself.
They're all here today. I didn't know
welcome.
who was going to be here today, but now all
Yeah.
three of them are here, so.
Good morning, I'm Kristen Grossnickel, Court Administrator.
Brett Wilson, Administrative Judge for the Circuit Court of Washington County, and thank you for hearing us today. I'm blessed with an incredible group of people at the Washington County Circuit Courthouse, and I'm going to rely on two of our best today, so I'll turn it over to Judge Wilkinson and Ms. Grossnickel.
Hi, Andrew Wilkinson with the Circuit Court. We're here today, as President Klein indicated, concerning change of job title, job description, reclassification, and the folks that we're talking about are the administrative assistants who work directly for the judges in the Circuit Court. The Maryland judiciary has changed that job from being a legal secretary to what is now called a judicial assistant for the judges and an executive judicial assistant, the person who works for Judge Wilson. When that happened, we looked at the employment descriptions here at the county, because they are county employees, and we recognized that those descriptions may not have fully described what those judicial assistants do. So we submitted an update here to the county for both of those jobs, judicial assistant and executive judicial assistant, for review by HR and the county administrator's office. When we did that, we also took a look, sort of a survey statewide, to see how the salaries were statewide. And what we found is that we were particularly low on the scale statewide and in comparison to the courts that are about the same size and move the same number of files that we do. And so our request is to update the job description, change the job title to judicial assistant and executive, change the job description to be more in line with what those employees actually do, and to change the salary as we indicated.
Commissioners, comments, questions? Anybody else?
I motion to approve.
Is there a second? I have first and a second. Any further discussion? All in favor, say aye.
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 Very much.
Thank you very much for your time.
You're welcome.
Thank you.
Thanks for your time. Next up, Washington County Soil Conservation. Please come forward and introduce yourself in the matter.
Good morning, Commissioners. John, Kirk, Krista. Dee Price, District Manager for the Soil Conservation District. I'm here today presenting on behalf of our District Board of Supervisors to request concurrence and approval for use of previously established budgeted funding for a district engineer, and in lieu of, use the funds for an urban planner engineering technician position, to do prerequisite work for outsourcing of dam safety reviews that would have been completed by the district engineering position. We have met previously with John and Commissioner Klein on August 22nd and did receive their concurrence. We have advertised, and we did discuss this with John and Commissioner Klein. We've advertised for the district engineer position and have had no success in doing so. We have researched and found engineering firms capable and qualified to handle the new requirements and restrictions being presented by the Maryland Department of the Environment for dam safety reviews, and would like to move forward in that direction. MDE's requirements are to become effective January 1st, 2023, and we are working diligently to have everything in place by that time. Otherwise, as discussed, dam safety reviews would be sent to MDE in Baltimore for review and approval. Further, the urban planner or engineering technician position would also assist with current soil erosion and sediment control workload responsibilities to allow us to continue our review and inspection goals and service at the current level, considering the continuing deluge of plans and complexity thereof.
So in summary, Dee, if this plan works, we won't have to send our plans to Baltimore, correct?
That is correct.
And then, do we still have a part-time engineer?
We do currently, but as we've discussed previously, he will be retiring very soon. He's already retired and is quite up in years, for lack of better words. So we're trying to think outside the box and prepare for reviews moving forward with the additional stringent requirements MDE will be placing upon us, his retirement, and an inability to hire an engineer.
Yeah, I agree. If we have to send them to Baltimore, we're sunk, but I'd motion to approve.
Is there a second?
I'll second for more discussion. Just curious, the fiscal impact line is not filled in. Is there a fiscal impact? Or are you just changing job descriptions or moving positions and it's a neutral impact on the budget?
Basically, yes. Our goal is to hire this lowered paid urban planner position, engineering technician, again, to do the prerequisite work as well as help with the additional soil erosion and sediment control reviews, as well as supplement the cost of outsourcing the dam safety reviews locally, so to prohibit the need to send them to Baltimore and have a 6 to 9 month turnaround time for those reviews.
One could say economic development starts with you.
Yeah, so-
Indeed.
Yeah, and I'll just follow up. So, I'm sure this board will recall, we did have these discussions during the budget session, during the budget season, and this board was in full support of hiring an engineer. We realized how important it was to keep that review local. As Dee said, they advertised, they tried to find someone, they couldn't do it, so I appreciate them thinking outside the box, creating this other position, and then working with an outside engineering firm to be able to use the funds that we already have available in that way so we can keep those reviews local. So.
Okay, I have a first and a second on the floor. Any other discussion? All in favor, say aye. Aye. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Have a great day.
Next on the agenda, welcome Mr. Fry and Mr. Kirchhoff. Please introduce yourself in the matter.
Gentlemen, good morning. Paul Fry, Washington County Chamber. We're the managing partner for the Washington County Community Coalition. I'll let Jim introduce himself, and I'll do a little introduction myself.
Jim Kirchhoff, Greater Hagerstown Committee. Welcome, everybody.
We're here this morning, number one, to review this last year in Annapolis for our Community Coalition. We're also here to thank you for your support, and we wanted to look ahead to the coming year in 2023 and ask for your continued support in the new year. We had another very successful year. I think we've distributed all the information ahead of time. We distribute our book that we give to our legislators. We distribute our agenda, and we also distribute our successes. So with that, I'll turn over to Jim to talk about our successes and then looking ahead to the 2023 session.
Yeah, as you all know, I think last year was another very successful year for Washington County, thanks to the support of our partners and our state delegation working hard in Annapolis to bring not only some money, but some policy changes that we've looked for a while. Some of the highlights based on the coalition's agenda was George Edwards Fund got $50 million. I know they're getting ready to finish their process. That'll bring some new incentives for economic development in the 3 western counties. Susan and her team and Jill at the city had expressed some concern over some enterprise zone legislation that may affect that incentive that has been very productive in this county, and we were able to kind of work with that bill and make sure that legislation was not crafted in a way that would be harmful. One thing we do need to consider is in 2030, that may sunset, so we may have to look at that in another 4 or 5 years. But at least for the near term, the threat of losing that incentive went away. I know a multi-year effort by the Washington County was to help support EMS Medicaid reimbursement for their transports. We were able to get a 50% increase in that when that hadn't been done for, I don't know, decades. And that was a bill that we've tried over and over again to get amended and through, and that passed. The highway user revenue, there's a longer-term plan to restore that, and I know that's a big part of your highway budget to keep our roads good. Hagerstown got some money for their field house. There was money for a Claire Barton Memorial Sculpture. Boonsboro got some water reservoir improvement money that's needed to upgrade their system. And then I-81, we did a lot to press that issue as well down there, and we hope to get some news on that when the infra grant comes out here in early October, as well as the transportation tour in November. So generally speaking, we got quite a bit of money last year that came forward, and we also worked to craft some legislation that was helpful to us and protect legislation like the enterprise zone. Outside of that, there was also another additional big chunk of money that came to the county thanks to the efforts of other individual organizations and our state delegation working to do those, and that was another $10 or $12 million of projects. So if anybody had any questions about last year's, we can. The coalition met now 2 times to start talking about agenda. They did approve working with the same lobbyist firm again, John Favazza. He's been very successful and helpful in working through a lot of these issues. We agreed to go through with them again. We also voted to once again go back to the one-day large event where we meet for meetings during the day and then a reception in the evening. COVID has disrupted that over the last 2 years, so we're looking to put that together, and I would encourage you to put January 25th, mark that down on your schedule, because that would be Washington County Day in Annapolis.
Jim, just a quick question. I didn't see it unless I missed it. Is there any legislation or anything your group, the coalition, can do for avenues for crime and law enforcement, such as HPD being enhanced or
overtime grants and things like that?
I mean, is there anything there? I didn't see anything on the crime situation and maybe like beefing up some police departments and.
We certainly can talk to John to see if there's anything out there to help us with that, as well as our delegation. That's something we'll add to the list, Randy. Also, I emailed to everybody last night. That was the brainstorming list of the group. It's still a rough draft. Typically, we try to pare that down so it's only 6 or 8 items instead of 15, 18. But the highlights from the county side, of course, I-81 and 7065 will stay on there. We had Dolman Museum construction of a Washington County Economic Development Strategic Plan from Susan's office, as well as some items on the watch list, which I think that probably would go on the watch list, but we kind of look for opportunities and talk to our delegation about that. So, we want to, again, still make sure the highway user revenue is protected, shifting liabilities to state, to local governments, gaming revenue, how education funding is going to take place. And I also point out, this is going to be a big year for the whole state, as a lot of changes are going to take place at the leadership level. Of course, we're going to have a new governor one way or the other, no matter which party gets in office. That typically means a lot of new secretaries and administration and department heads, and it's going to be brand new for our county to go down there and start making new relationships and start educating the new leadership on what's important and what's happening in Washington County. So that's another part of the coalition's effort.
I have a couple questions.
Sure.
Of course, 81, and there's probably not an update on it yet, but we're trying, aren't we? I think the pressure's been on down there more than ever, correct?
Yeah, it's we hit that really hard every year. It's funny because when you actually walk in now to MDOT, I think when we went to the MACO meeting, as soon as you walk in, they say, okay, we know 81, you don't have to even bring it up. So they know that is top ahead, but we still brought it up. So, all the leadership down there knows that, and it's certainly a big push for us. And we are hopeful that we get some good news this year, either through the grant or other funding.
And again, I want to be able to say again, for 12 years in a row, highway user revenue fully restored.
We finally got some headway with the extra money that was in.
Well, they have $1 billion surplus. Why can't they share a little bit back at Washington County?
I would just say, I know that's typically a push with that legislation passing last year that put like a 5-year plan to restore it at a higher level. I doubt they'll want to probably hit that again in a new year because they just kind of felt like they checked the box last year, but certainly there's nothing that says they couldn't use the same legislation and try to escalate that quicker, because it was over time that it went back up. And I know the county portion got hit harder than the municipal portion.
I was going to say, it was a start, but the county didn't get nearly as much as some of the other, I won't say, but.
And with inflation.
It was a lot better in my day.
Well, with inflation and then restoring it back to previous levels is still not back to where we need. One of the other questions, I think I saw in your email, we were maybe something about 250th anniversary of Washington County funding for tourism, or?
Well, one of the members brought up in 2026 is the 250th anniversary of the country. There's going to be a lot of activities taking place. I think what their issue is to try to make sure if Maryland, every state's going to do a plan on tourism opportunities during that big year. I mean, it's still 5 years away, but there's planning already underway. So what he wanted to do is make sure that we keep an eye on what Maryland's tourism plans were and make sure Washington County is a part of that, because we certainly have the opportunity to bring a lot of tourism in with all of our state parks and things.
Two more things. Sorry to be so talkative.
Just to say, obviously, that's the 250th anniversary of Washington County too, so.
That's right.
At the same time,
It's true. That's
so
even better.
So the county wants to be a big part of that.
Better way to plug it. Good point.
October 8th is when you want to finalize these requests. The commissioners probably haven't had a lot of chance to talk about any other things, so we still have ample opportunity to submit something.
Absolutely.
Well, and we understand in an election year, you'd have to be sensitive to that. Typically the outgoing board, still makes a lot of those decisions, because if we don't get this stuff in early, we get behind in the advocacy efforts. But as the new board comes in and you guys have some last minute things, this is always a fluid agenda. We could always make adjustments. Just the sooner we get stuff done, the better.
One of the things I'd like to see put on there is a burn building for our state-of-the-art training center that we're having a grand opening on here in about a week, to get that, to help complete the training, that facility down there. But one other thing I just want to bring up for the public knowledge is what we're having. You keep, and we mentioned it's an election year. Governor Hogan will begin a budget process in November, December, but he leaves office January something because of a new governor coming in. A lot of that could change to their priorities. Is that correct?
That's,
Could
yeah,
you
absolutely.
speak upon how that
Yeah,
works?
it'll be a tricky year when you have the transition, particularly, depending if there's a change of party or not. I know the year Governor Hogan took over, when you had a change of party, it took a while to get a lot of leadership positions in. A lot of budget issues were in flux for a while, but yeah, we'll have to really keep a close eye on things.
So I guess the purpose of all my questions with what you just said, this year probably this session is more important than ever to keep the pressure on, to be in contact.
And not just that, but when we do our reception, we really create the brand for the county, and that's really gone far for us over the years, because we've been able to show them, what really takes place here. We certainly love our friends in Allegheny and Garrett, but we're a little different. We probably have a little more like Frederick in some of our economy than we do Allegheny and Garrett County, and it's important for us to continue to educate the new people coming aboard, so they know. But we certainly appreciate your support in the past. If I could just say one more thing, because they don't get enough credit, but I was at the MACO conference. I saw Commissioner Burkett down there as well. Your staff did a great job at presenting what's going on in the county. Their booth was a highlight. They were working the crowd really well, but you should be really proud of that team. Susan and the PR department and John and his team did a great job.
You need to inform MACO staff it's apple butter, not apple jelly.
Apple butter.
Regional fall po was made there.
And so, again, I want to
Sorry to say that if you're listening, MACO.
Well, emphasize what Jim said, what you said, Commissioner Klein. We're going to have a new comptroller. We have a lot of new folks down there, and even more important to have a lobbyist representing our coalition as a partnership. And Mass County, in particular, John Favaz does a nice job. He's got connections. We're going to have a lot of new faces to meet, and so we are asking for and hope you'll support, again, the coming year, $10,000 towards coalition. And with that, Are any other questions?
Can I have a motion to support the request?
I have just a couple comments.
Sure.
I support the request. I think has been alluded to by everyone. This may be the most important year for the lobbying coalition. And as you start to plan and move forward, not just with the day in Annapolis, but if you need something additional to cement that good first impression with so many new state leaders, let us know. We need to make this count, I think, this year.
Sure.
We already talked to the lobbyist about trying to talk to some of the committee chairs about getting them to visit up here again. We've done that in the past, but now we have some new committee chairs, so we're trying to get them up and visit the community. So sometimes they'll have like a meeting day in a different county and in the off season. So we're going to try to get that set up.
Yeah. Just maybe two requests from me. I know last year's booklet had a really nice spread with the Dolman Black Heritage Museum. That's a project that I've kind of taken an interest in. And I know the city of Hagerstown as well. I've spoken to their city administrator, the mayor, about that project, and I know that's something that the city supports as well. This board obviously does through the space that we provide, but not that we want to kick them out, but we want to move them into their new home, and that would be a nice thing if we can continue to press that particular project. I think that has a lot of merit for our community. Also, I see on the back page here, you have some other county projects not part of the coalition's agenda, and you have different regions throughout the county. I know the town of Hancock isn't a member participant like some of the other communities are, but they're working on their sewer project, which for that small town, that's the biggest economic impediment that small community has, their water and sewer project. And I was speaking with some town officials the other day, and I know they feel confident in some of the grants that they've gotten and some of their connections that they've made. But anything you can do to help seal that deal as well would be good.
I know there's a new town administrator, relatively new.
Yes.
Someone told me his name, I believe. I don't remember.
Mike Faith.
Tell me again?
Mike Faith.
Mike Faith.
I met Mike down at Mako Conference and told him I'd try to make some time to come up and have lunch, just to get them. And I know we've talked to Smithsburg as well about being one of the towns that comes aboard. They're talking to us a little bit as well.
Yeah.
But we certainly try to listen.
So, Jim, maybe from your time here on the commission, but Paul, I don't know if you know or not, but Hancock is one of a handful of municipalities that has a lagoon system, not a wastewater treatment system in Maryland. So this is a big deal for them. Their opportunities to expand really rest on that. So if you could reach out to them, that would be good.
Yep,
So
we will talk
and you
to
may
Mike.
have another partner. Not speaking for them.
Talk to
but-
Mike, sure.
All right, thank you. They're great additions. Hearing that, is there a motion to support the $10,000 request?
You motioned, didn't you, Wayne? Did you motion?
Well, he just said he supported it. He didn't make a motion.
I'll motion to approve.
Thank you. Is there a second?
Second.
Have first and second. Any further discussion? All in favor, say aye. Aye. 5-0. Thank you, gentlemen.
Guys,
Thank you.
Next up, contract award 2023-1, Brandy Andrew. Please come forward, introduce yourselves and the matter.
Brandy Nagelbauer in the Purchasing Department.
Andrew Eshelman, Director of Public Works.
The recommendation I have for you this morning is the contract award 2023-01, number 2 heating oil supply and delivery. Move to concur with the recommendation of the Washington County Public School Board to award the contract for Washington County government's number 2 heating fuel to the responsible low bid AC&T out of Hagerstown, Maryland, with the bid factor of .2395 per gallon for tank wagon deliveries. Washington County, as well as the City of Hagerstown, cooperatively bid heating fuel requirements with the Washington County Public School Board. At the school board's meeting on Tuesday, August 16, 2022, Washington County Public Schools awarded the contract for tank wagon loads to the responsible bidder, AC&T out of Hagerstown. The contract was effective August the 16th, 2022, ending July 31st, 2023, and this contract can be renewed for 3 additional one-year periods. Funds are budgeted as required in the individual using departments for the county.
Motion to approve.
Is there a second?
Second.
Have first and second. Any further discussion? Hearing none, all in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Aye, thank you very much.
Thank you.
Next up, bid award PR-1567. Rick Curry, Dave Mason, please come forward, introduce yourselves and the matter.
Good morning, Rick Curry, Director of Purchasing.
Dave Mason, Deputy Director of Solid Waste.
Subject before you is bid award PUR 1567 Electronics Recycling. Recommended motion to award the bid to Electronics Recycling for the Solid Waste Department to the responsive bidder, PC Recyclers doing business as Secures of Chantilly, Virginia, who submitted a bid price in amount of 40 cents a pound for monitors and televisions and 20 cents a pound for all non-glass material. Department sought to seek bids for this project. As you can see in the ARF, there will be no Sunday services or holidays. It will be based upon when the department needs the service to be available. It's a one-year contract with 2 one-year renewals. You can also see where it was advertised on the various websites and the media, the number of individuals who downloaded the documents. We did receive one bid, and there are funds in the department's budget for this project, and you do have the bid tab attached to the ARF. Are there any questions?
Motion to approve.
Is there a second?
Second.
I have a first and a second. Any further discussion? Hearing none, all in favor say aye.
Aye.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Mr. Curry, I believe you're up next with, is it Rachel? You're, am I right in order here? School-based mental, excuse me.
Rick Curry, Director of Purchasing.
Rachel Souter, Senior Grant Manager.
Subject before you is contract award 1565, school-based mental health services. Recommended motion move to award a contract for provision of school-based mental health services to responsible proposer, Brook Lane Health Service Incorporated of Hagerstown, Maryland, in the amount of $276,560 for option A and $120,000 for option B, contingent upon funding being provided by the Governor's Office for option A and upon approval of each option by the local management board. The purpose of the service is to provide to fulfill the requirements of the county's community partnership agreement with the Governor's Office of Crime Prevention, Youth, and Victim Services for fiscal year 2023. And you can see also there will be a number of sessions for each student. Tell us about the number of students that will be serviced under this contract. It is a contract who began on September 1st and on June 30th for 2 consecutive one-year renewals. You can also see the list of individuals who served on a coordinating committee. As usual, we did advertise the RFP on various websites, on the local media, and we did receive one proposal. You can see the fiscal impact, and the coordinating committee does agree with the recommendation, and there is a scope of the services to be provided by the vendor.
Motion to approve.
Is there a second? A first and second. Any further discussion? Hearing none, all in favor say aye. 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 Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Next up, I believe, is Todd Moser, Real Property Administrator. Please introduce yourself in the matter.
Good morning, Commissioners. Todd Moser, Real Property Administrator. State surplus property arrived at a consensus to decline acquisition of state surplus property. The State of Maryland has declared a property located off the west side of Maryland Route 67, just north of intersection of U.S. Route 340 and Maryland Route 67 in Knoxville, Washington County, containing 1.178 acres of land to be surplus property. In accordance with the Maryland Department of Transportation Policy and Procedures, the state has offered the county first right of refusal. The county would be required to pay market value determined by the state for the property. County staff has reviewed the property and determined the property would serve no immediate or future use to the county.
Motion to decline the property.
Second.
First and a second. Any other questions? All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Next up, ARC, Susan Grimes. Thank you very much.
Good morning, Commissioners. Today I'm here with a request for support on a sponsorship for the Appalachian Regional Commission Annual Conference. The ARC will be a co-host for the 2022 Annual Conference titled One Appalachia, Connection and Collaboration, along with the State of Maryland, October 17th through the 19th at Rocky Gap Resort in Flintstone, Maryland. The event is going to highlight how our 13 states and 423 counties are collaborating to bring each of ARC's strategic investments to life. The conference will feature ARC partners who work daily to strengthen Appalachia by creating and expanding workforce development, growing sectors like outdoor recreation, developing entrepreneurs, and building leadership and community capacity. Attendees will have the opportunity to an exclusive fireside chat between Governor Hogan and special guest Cal Ripken Jr. They'll be able to attend mobile workshops highlighting Maryland's partnerships that have led to growth in workforce development, homegrown business, and tourism, and listen to special addresses from ARC governors in attendance. ARC has been long since been a partner of Washington County, and there have been many projects to improve or build infrastructure, support economic and business development, and provide opportunities within the region. I'm asking for $7,000 to come from our hotel rental tax fund, which has an unencumbered balance of $1,033,323.09.
Motion to approve.
Second.
Have first and second. Any further discussion? All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Thank you very much,
Thank
Susan.
you.
Next up, Hagerstown Regional Airport. Mr. Downey, you're up.
Thank you. Commissioners, as you recall, at our last meeting, there was a public hearing concerning the potential acquisition of certain real property at the airport that is necessary for compliance with Federal Aviation Administration standards and regulations concerning the runway visibility zone and the runway object-free area at Hagerstown Regional Airport. This proposed acquisition has been identified by the county's aviation consultant as necessary and desirable to improve the safety and operations of the airport. At this time, it would be appropriate to approve the ordinance approving the acquisition of the real property, and again, to remind you that that is by the county's exercise of its power of eminent domain, given the title issues that are affecting those parcels.
So you're looking for my motion to approve the land acquisition for FAA runway visibility zone?
And that includes the ordinance?
Yes.
Okay, you made a motion. Is there a second?
Second.
Any further discussion? Hearing none, all in favor say aye.
Aye.
Aye, thank you very much.
Thank you.
Thank you all very much. Next up, Mr. Downey, potential legislative issues.
Thank you, Commissioners. This is a reminder or the beginning of the conversation regarding potential legislative items that the county may wish to see addressed in the 2023 regular session of the General Assembly. Obviously, the county meets with the delegation prior to the start of the General Assembly and presents items that either require legislative changes or items that the county would like the delegation to keep an eye on. At this time of the year, we generally begin the conversation. We wanted to begin the conversation with the commissioners and wanted to remind staff that if there are certain items that have been identified as needing legislative attention or items that we want the delegation to keep an eye on for our behalf, they should let my office know so that we can put them on the list. Obviously, if the commissioners themselves have individual items, please let me know and we will put them on the list. We will then bring that list to this board at a later date for final consideration and discussion. With that being said, and with the conversation that occurred earlier this morning regarding the Community Coalition, now would also be the time to begin to consider whether there are any items that the commissioners want to advance for the Community Coalition to include in its legislative package or its watch list.
You have the two that I mentioned today.
Yes.
Okay, and what other ones have you received?
The burn building request for inclusion in the capital budget for a grant, and I've also heard mention support for the Pittsburgh Institute of Aviation's expansion project by way of inclusion in the governor's capital budget.
And we have time to get that, but I would say sooner than later, correct? To get your thoughts.
Yes, obviously, the Community Coalition is looking to finalize their package, so within the next week or so, if there are items that we want to advance to them, they need to be identified. We have a little more time, given the county's package, but we do need to begin to get that together because things will be a little tight this year with the election.
You know what I'm going to ask.
The meeting with the delegation, I believe, is tentatively scheduled for December,
Very tentatively scheduled
Seven.
for December 7th. Very tentatively.
which would be the day after the next board
Yeah.
takes office.
Okay. Yeah, because the Community Coalition had mentioned that they were scheduled at the lunch hour on December 7th. So I think that's, and I knew you reached out to Krista to talk about that. So, yeah, so the other thing I was going to say, obviously Kirk was talking about that. So the list that Jim Kirchhoff had forwarded to you all last night, so looking at this list about what things for the Community Coalition that we may want to add to it, if this board has any concerns with anything on this list, that's something to take a look at and bring forward for discussion as well.
Yes.
Again, this is just everybody was throwing things and putting things on the list here. So if there's county things we want to add, but if there's things on here that give us a concern, we need to know that too.
Yeah.
Something that I would like to see, if this is the time to bring up a new item, I'm not exactly sure how we need to word it or craft it, or quite honestly what the request might even be. But I think it would be helpful to have some recognition at the state level that, going back to the two schools that were threatened with closure last year in Hancock and Cascade, that those communities are in remote areas of our county. I think of Hancock because that's the community I live. We didn't decide the boundaries of the state of Maryland. That was done hundreds of years ago, but being only 1.8 miles wide is an impediment in many ways, and an impediment to population and what's counted for, the population that goes to that local school system. I'm not exactly sure what that request needs to be. Perhaps we need to work with the new superintendent, but I think it would be helpful to recognize that those communities are in rural parts of our state, but they're just as important. I know our board has recognized that, but some assistance from the state in some fashion, closing a high school would leave a gap between, is it Fort Hill and Clear Spring? That might be the largest space distance-wise, as the crow flies, between any two other high schools in the state, but something along those lines. And again, maybe we need to work with the partners at the Board of Ed to help determine what that might be.
All right.
Would we have agreement to look at that?
Yeah, it's worth the
Oh, sure. That committee they put together, that's put together, the state requires that, correct? The committee they put together.
The school closing committee, that's
I don't
every
know if that's what it's called.
5 years they do that?
That's what my question was, how often do they meet? Every 5 years?
I don't know if it's every 5 years or not. You know?
I don't know.
But it is periodically.
Yeah, they do.
Every
Yeah, you do it
five.
on a regular basis. I just don't know what it
We
is.
might want to figure out how do we not have that committee meet? I mean, the ultimate decision comes down to locals, and although I understand the committee's local people, but.
Right.
And maybe we just don't even want that committee to meet. I don't know.
Use a delegate will get you to pass legislation.
Well, I mean, it could be.
Yeah,
It could be.
All right,
I'm going to support it.
okay. Just a reminder, get any request into Kirk soon for lobbying coalition or our presentation to the delegation. Is there any other comments?
Also, I thought they said that, and I'm just thinking of the new commissioners that come on board, they'll still have an opportunity and for some input on
That day,
some
yeah,
requests.
we can be,
Okay.
they can be asking. Okay. Anything else?
Did you approve the black?
I think the black fly was included in that motion.
was.
Because it was coming from the surplus, so yes. the black-
Right, but it would,
but
so
the
they're not a nonprofit, right? So would that come out of that 3 million, or would that come out of another part of the surplus? We didn't really talk about that, but because that's not a nonprofit asking for the money.
Yeah, it's actually a budget line.
It's actually a budget line, and so we'd have to, so,
Increase it every year.
Can you transfer surplus into the budget to cover it?
yeah, I mean, it's
already
in
did
it,
that.
well, Kim's up there, but it's in another budget line, right? So we'd have to move that, we'd have to make a budget adjustment to move that over to the Black
Good as a
Flag.
budget adjustment, so we're following procedure.
What it would come out of.
1 year, correct?
It wouldn't,
For 1 year.
it's just for this year, and then
Okay.
next year, we'll have to look at that during the budget process as to, because right now, I think it's 37.5, that's what it's been as long as I can remember.
It has been, I think they were referring to Jissy Hall was also in that.
Oh, okay, all right. All right, because one was saying 70 and the other one was saying no, so.
The
right,
request is 52.5, that's a request.
Right, so the 52.5 will come out of surplus, but not necessarily out of the 3 million that you put aside for nonprofit, because it's
Okay.
not a nonprofit, right? I mean, if that's,
Very good correction.
okay, so we'll, okay, just wanted to clarify that.
Commissioners, any other comments? If not, motion to go to close.
Motion to go into closed session.
Is there a second?
Second.
All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Thank you very much.